When your coffee is freshly roasted and ethically sourced, it's music to your ears. Shake up the way you wake up at kingscoastcoffee.com.
Welcome to episode 43 of the Old Fashioned Podcast.
We're still here.
Yeah, we are. We had to change things up a bit at Rare Drop when it came to creating content and reprioritize things. So Mike and I are going back to self-producing. So it took us a couple weeks to sort all of that out. And then Clintus is doing some temporary work, I think with his dad or something. So he'll be back next week. But we sorted through everything. We already have next week's recording scheduled. Got show notes all good for today. But yeah, that's where we've been and what we've been up to, and just kind of moving things around and hanging out. But before we go any further, I would like to make sure, even though you can't see me this time, I am wearing a King's Coast Coffee shirt. I am drinking out of a King's Coast travel mug, and maybe, just maybe, there's a special dropping this week. So if you're a fan of King's Coast, you might want to keep an eye out. Last week, we had the Halloween bags go out. Those sold out. And this week, we have something else special going out. And then we also ordered some other special stuff to make some cool coffee going into the holidays and some other products. So, yeah. Go over to kingscoastcoffee.com, join the Kings Club, make sure you're on the mailing list, and you won't miss out on anything exciting at kingscoastcoffee.com. Mike, what's up?
Not too much. How about you, man?
You still look like you're moving behind you.
Yeah, well, this room is the last room to get finalized. You know
There's always one.
Yeah, but you know what I did prioritize? I prioritized
the Magic the Gathering room.
Yes, this is the Magic the Gathering room. I have a separate table I have a table in this corner, legit, that has all my shit on it, and I pick the table up and I bring it in front of my desk. And I plop it down, and that's what I play Magic on.
All right, let's talk about this because we have to. So, Mike and Rob have gotten very into Magic the Gathering. Like, when I tell you this is like a whiplash sort of thing, they all of a sudden one day, they just would not stop talking about it. And they're ordering it. Mike has spent hundreds of dollars in the past few weeks, maybe thousands, I don't know, on cards and sets and everything. So then they're like, well, we want you to get interested in it. And to me, it's very daunting to just jump into something like this. Warhammer 40K and painting figurines, you could probably get me because there's a Lord of the Rings version of that too that I'd probably be like, yeah, I'll paint Lord of the Rings figurines. That's like niche on top of niche too.
I mean, that version's probably more expensive than just playing Magic.
Oh, I agree 100%.
Yeah.
But it's like a hobby.
It's true, yeah. Yeah.
You got your little monocle thing, and you're like sitting there.
That's
Zach
true.
from St. Jude does it too, and so does my buddy Jay Glam, who I play D&D with. So 100% would do that. This, I'm like, So one day I'm like, because you guys play online through the Wizards portal, right?
Yes, we play Spell Table right now.
Yeah, so they invited me to watch on Spell Table like one Saturday or Sunday morning. I can't remember. So I'm sitting there drinking my coffee, watching them play. And Danielle's like, is that Mike from across the kitchen? I'm like, yeah. She's like, what the hell is he saying? And I'm like, oh, he's playing Magic the Gathering with Rob. And she's like, what the fuck is a Magic the Gathering? And I'm like, it's a card game. And I spin the iPad around like this. And she goes, no, you're not.
Immediately.
She's like, I put up with so many of your weird hobbies. No, we are not building card tables. And then she saw Rob has that mat. And it's like all detailed. Yeah, and it's all gold inlaid and all detailed with all this design and stuff. And she is like, no, that is not coming into my house. There's nowhere to put it. And I'm like, we're redoing the garage so I can do stuff in the garage. You can't stop me from playing Magic in the garage. Well, at this point, I'm just antagonizing her. And she's like, no. She's like, this. I'm putting my line in the sand. No more on this. and then Hunter comes over and he's like, "Oh, it's like Pokemon, but
Yup.
for like big people."
Dude, that's all it's gonna take.
And I'm like, "Yeah, essentially that." And he's sitting there watching, and she's like, "Hunter, go play with something."
That's exactly what it is. So Grayson's super into the Pokemans.
Oh yeah.
And that play mat is basically a large desk mat for like your mouse pad. It's about
Yeah.
the same size, a little smaller actually. But my LGS, I mean everybody's game store has all of the popular card games, right? So I brought Grayson the one day to the card store with me. Mm-hmm. And they have awesome Funko Pops, and he loves the Funkos. And he starts picking out all these ones. They're collector editions. I'm like, I would buy this for you if I knew it would stay in the box because it's a collector edition. But you're going to take it out. You're going to throw it across the room. It's going to end up in the bath with you. And I'm just not willing to spend that money. But we go, and every time I go and get some packs, he gets some Pokemon packs. So it's something him and I can do together. So he sits there. And we open up his Pokemon cards and we go through. I'm like, oh, that's an ultra rare or whatever. And he's like, ultra rare. He puts them in his little binder. Loves it. And then I go and I get my stuff. Anymore. So I love cracking packs. That is an addiction. But
Oh yeah. Well, I see it with my son.
yeah, it's an addiction.
Danielle goes to Publix and she's like, "I got you a pack of Pokemon cards." He's like,
Yep.
"What you need to do." Since we were talking about it yesterday and, putting some stuff on the old-fashioned Twitch channel and whatnot, you should crack, like, when you get a thing, you should do pack openings on Twitch.
So basically what I decided to do is I'm going to stop buying single packs unless it's a real fat set, like the Double Master set that came out. That would be worth buying single packs because it's so loaded. Modern Horizons 2 is another one. So loaded. So all I'm going to do moving forward is just buy boxes. So I'll get a ton of packs in one.
You realize I'm essentially then, too, you sound like you're playing like an Ultimate Team mode in one of the sports games.
Yeah. It's just, but it's physically tangible. So I will 100% do pack openings of the box set. If I would absolutely do that.
People will be interested, trust me.
So here's the thing, though, right? So like Ultimate Team, the digital, and same thing with Magic has an arena. Magic Arena has the online game, just like Hearthstone.
It just went to Rob's favorite company, Daybreak.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, they just migrated everything over to Daybreak last week.
That's Magic the Gathering Online, right?
Rob hates Daybreak.
Why?
It's Sony.
Oh,
They ruined. I don't know if Sony still owns it, but that's the correlation there. They're the ones who ruined EverQuest. They're the ones who ruined DC Universe.
Oh.
Rob's philosophy is anything that Daybreak touches is
They kill.
dead. Yeah, Lotro's Daybreak now too.
So, oh, geez. So
What these companies do is they just buy old MMOs and then they just monetize the fuck out of that to like just absolutely suck the life out of the existing fan base.
Yeah, I would say destroy the existing fan base.
Yeah.
What was cool about MTGO is that you could, and forgive me because I never played MTGO and I don't know how it works, but essentially you could gain credits for lack of the official term, and through playing online you could actually buy physical cards. You could trade in your currency and get real life physical cards, which is really cool. But at least now, if you buy the physical cards, they retain value. I just sold a card for $35.
Yeah, I know. I saw you talking about that.
One card. I cracked another one that was over 40. That one I kind of want to keep, but you get into it for the investment side. I mean, it's no less risky than the stock market, but
What's the most expensive Magic the Gathering card worth?
the most expensive Black Lotus is going for 42 grand,
No, this one says 145K.
175K. Oh, this is a graded one. That's why. Yeah, I said 175K right now for a graded Lotus.
What does this card do? Adds three mana of any single color of your choice to your mana pool, and then is discarded. Tapping this artifact can be played as an interrupt.
So here's the thing though. So look at the top right corner. See how it says 0?
Yeah.
So that is a free card. So you're getting 3 mana for free. That's dumb broken. And this is an alpha. This is an alpha order. 93, dude. Crazy.
Do they ever like remove cards from play? Like you can't use this card anymore?
Yes, there's a whole. In fact, there's just a big ban that came out of Meat Hook Massacre card just got banned.
But then do people play games where they're allowed to use them anyway?
So here's the thing: the format we play, Commander, which we're trying to get you in.
Mm-hmm.
So is there a ban list for Commander? Yes. The difference is when you start your game of Commander, you have what's called Rule 0. And that's where we all get together and we discuss what's going to happen in the game, right? So you could come in, you guys, hi, like, dude, I brewed this awesome deck, but, I have this X card in it. I have an alternative, but are you guys okay if I play this game with it? And everyone can agree at Rule 0 to let you play that card. Because it's the most casual of casual. You all determine, even down to the power level of your deck. You come in and be like, dude, I have this is $1,000 deck that I bought, put together. It's like borderline competitive. And everyone can be like, yeah, I don't want to play that. No.
So then, all right, I get Lord of the Rings packs.
It's coming.
I get 40K packs.
Uh-huh.
I build decks from that. You're just allowed to play any card from any of those in any deck?
Yep.
It's so weird. It's like a multiverse.
So 40K right now only has pre-constructed Commander decks. So if you buy a 40K deck out the box, it's a Commander deck ready to go. It's 100 cards. So you buy that, what they call a pre-con, and you're good. You're good. I mean, it's not the most powerful, but you're good to go. You can play a game.
Apparently, Age of Sigmar and Blood Bowl will also have cards.
So that's a secret layer.
Magic.
Those are all secret layers. So you see, like, if you look at those are 4 to 5 card packs with specialty printings.
So those are all pre-packed. You don't make stuff out of it. Is that
Correct.
The Lord of the Rings one are going to be the same way too?
I mean, I am positive they're going to have a secret layer Lord of the Rings. There's no way they don't. But Lord of the Rings, from what I've read, is supposed to be a set. That's what it says on Wizards of the Coast website. That Lord of the Rings is going to be a set because it's such a big universe. You could argue so is 40K, but Rings is a massive IP.
I mean, yeah.
Like, how do you not do a full set around Lord of the Rings?
We're having that issue with the fan base now with the television show, which we'll talk about. But it's what I'm finding interesting too about that is how many times Tolkien contradicted himself.
Did he?
A lot. I've been watching a lot of videos, and the man couldn't make up his mind on certain things, so he just wrote them down. You figure there's only a few books that he actually wrote. The rest were taken from his notes.
But I mean, so if I'm taking notes down for anything, whatever I'm doing, if I'm brainstorming something, I mean, I would very easily conflict myself just brainstorming. I mean, it's the point of brainstorming, right?
I have. This is my notebook filled with my...
Yeah. So how seriously are we taking...
Well, that's the problem.
That's the argument, right?
That's the argument, is this isn't accurate to Tolkien lore in Rings of Power. We're talking about Rings of Power now. This isn't accurate to Tolkien lore. All right, what isn't accurate about the orc backstory with Adar? Because it fits one of the things that he said. They're like, well, no, he said this too. Well, that contradicts himself. So that's not fair to the showrunners.
It depends on what you choose to believe. So here's...
Yeah.
So...
Yeah.
Overall, what's your... Like, let's just do an overall. Overall, what's your opinion of the show?
I think it has a lot of holes. I think it started out really slow. I think they could have made some other choices when they were character building. I think it's one of the most gorgeous fantasy shows I've ever seen in my entire life. I think it's a little bit too niche. And
Really?
the expectation of world building versus people with pre-existing knowledge of Middle Earth, there was a gap there.
Yes.
And they didn't cater to people like my wife, because that's what I bounce the general viewer off of, is how
You
many
have to,
questions my wife has to ask me during a show. And Lord of the Ring or Rings of Power, it was a lot. She kept asking me stuff, to try and keep up, and not all of it I knew because they're filling in some gaps. But I read something interesting a few weeks ago. I had said this to you in our chat, but I'll say it on here, that I think that Tolkien Estate did a disservice to the fans by not selling or licensing all of the rights to everything.
I mean,
And
that
only-
would have made it a better show. It
Only
would have made
piecemeal.
better material.
Yeah, because they're restricted in words they can say and things like that.
Well, right. And you could see that in the way they pull certain sayings from the Peter Jackson adaptation.
Yep.
I mean,
And
it's
the way-
literally, it's just rewording some of the very lines from the movie.
in a fun way from time to time.
Yes.
Like some of it, like you finished it, right? You watched the last episode?
Yeah, like instead of saying evil lives in this area, say dark forces reside here. You're saying the same thing. Obviously, not as simplistic as that, but there are a few points in the show where that pops up. Overall, I agree with you. I thought it was pretty good. I think I liked. How do I say this? Everything's gorgeous as I would assume it would be, given the
Right.
budget, right? Why would it not? I love the way that they did the orcs. They looked phenomenal.
They were incredible.
The environments were amazing. The writing,
Sometimes it was really bad.
dude, it was so cringe. Some
of it was very good.
And the choreography was very, very poor. Like the fighting scenes. I mean, aside from however you want to view it, like lore, like I know you and I discussed when Galadriel was fighting the Númenóreans that were soldiers, and so
When she was sparring with them. Yeah.
everyone in that scene is a soldier, right? And as I saw some criticism online, like that's not realistic. I mean, barring what's physically realistic and not, I don't care for nitpicking like that. It's a fucking fantasy show. You know what I mean?
Right.
But she's fighting Númenórean soldiers. She herself is a soldier.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is there anything that says elves have super creature powers, right?
They do.
It's realistic for her to be able to have wrist control. That's the one thing I saw over and over was you would never block like this. It's blah, blah, blah. I'm sure there's explanations behind it. But the Númenóreans were also not your regular humans.
No.
And they were borderline embarrassed. So from a lore point, they were embarrassed, which they were allies. It doesn't really make sense that she would sit there and embarrass Númenórean soldiers the way she did.
Did you meet her? She's kind of a bitch.
Right, but that's the show's vision of her.
I'm okay. And you know what? By the end of the season, I didn't hate it because she's on a journey, I think, to get to the Galadriel we know.
Yeah, but how old is she?
She is 2,000, 3,000 at this point.
I mean,
She'll be 6, 7
Really?
by the
Like-
time Lord of the Rings rolls around.
but the choreography specifically for that fight scene was just weak. It was weak. It was very, very weak. I was like, what? Like you could just see the it just was bad. It was bad choreography. It could have been so much cooler.
There are
or
definitely
even-
things that I think, like, if they spent as much money on the show as they say they did, there's definitely things that I'm like,
I look at this, I'm like, you spent this much money. Where did it
Yeah.
go?
and it's like writers from Game of Thrones and Breaking Bad wrote the show. Like,
You know that, like, and this is where I could agree with you. There's obviously talent there in their pool, and had they had material, they could have done something really cool with it. So,
well, for instance, spoiler, Get Out.
yeah, if you haven't
Okay,
seen,
you've been warned. Halbrand.
right,
First of all, when And there's still time to do this, so don't get me wrong. They can still do this. I just don't know what they have rights to and what they don't. So I don't know how to temper my expectations based on that. That's part of the other problem. So
Yeah.
at some point, Sauron goes to Lindon, not to Eregion, and meets with Gil-galad. And he is disguised as this beautiful elf named Anatar, the Lord of Gifts.
Yeah, they didn't
And-
even include it. Yeah.
But I don't know if they have the rights to Anatar. This is
They
where
probably don't. So is it fair to judge them on that?
right, because then he's going to go to Numenor and do the same exact thing as a different character.
Exactly. So he's there, just not as the lore would dictate.
Right, but I don't know if Halbrand is the replacement for Anatar or if he's in addition to Anatar, because Anatar technically comes when it's time to build the rings for the dwarves and the men.
Oh, so there is still time.
There is. That's why I'm saying I don't know if it's a replacement because they don't have the rights, and like Halbrand will return because Anatar is supposed to return. Celebrimbor is supposed to trust him, which he did in the finale, but Gil-galad, Galadriel, and Elrond are all supposed to be like, there's something off here, and Galadriel was really the only one that picked up on it.
Yeah, but it took her till that time.
Well,
It
that
took,
being
it took her
said,
till that.
don't forget his title. I think everyone forgot that. What is his name? They literally say it in the first 4 minutes of Lord of the Rings. Sauron the Deceiver.
Deceiver. Yeah, that's true.
He's a shape-shifting, mind-bending, and I thought they nailed that. Once she realized who he was, I thought they absolutely like home run, knocked it out of the park, nailed how Sauron
When he came out.
because she almost like believed him.
Yeah.
There was a
she
point
did
there where she
believe
was
him.
doubting herself.
Yeah.
And that's what made it so awesome for me. It was like, yes, this is Sauron the Deceiver. This is the one.
It is
who's gonna
comical.
trick people.
It is comical to me that out of all the races, probably no one's a better historian than the elves, right?
Yes.
You choose a dumb lie as I'm a king, we very easily trace the lineage and catch you in your bullshit.
But look how hard it was for them to trace the lineage, and all they had was that one parchment,
They had that one scroll, but
and
you
it
looked
happened
at
to
the
be an
scroll,
Eregion.
But you looked at the scroll and it was literally a family tree.
Yeah, but that was the
I
only
like,
one.
What the fuck?
And it took that elf days to find it too. Keep that in mind.
Right. No, but I'm just like,
Because think
okay.
they probably haven't taken that scroll out since it was scribed originally 1,000 years ago.
Probably not. And what do they care about the world of men?
They don't give a shit.
Exactly. So, they said it in the show. We don't have much outside of us, but they did have it.
Right. And the other thing too, and I had to explain this to Danielle. Danielle's like, these elves don't feel very like elf-like. And I'm like, girl, read the Silmarillion. All the elves do is bicker and fight amongst each other.
Right.
The elves are more like Legolas's dad from The Hobbit than they are the elves we know in the Lord of the Rings movies.
Okay, fair. Let me ask you
the
this.
Silmarillion is just like infighting, arguing, and then fighting orcs. That's literally the whole book.
Let me ask you this. When she was in the library in Numenor,
Yep.
she found, where she discovered that the sigil was actually a map.
Mm-hmm.
Would they not have that same history of man there?
Not necessarily, because their history is more ancient.
But isn't it more likely?
No.
Because it's what? Because it's the Southlands?
Yeah, the Southlands, as you can see, is in disarray. They don't really have
Yeah, but
archives
you wouldn't have
history.
No, I know the Southlands wouldn't, but the Numenorians wouldn't have text in reference to king lineage, royal lineage. for
No,
that?
because think when they cut Middle Earth off was about 1,000 years ago.
they
haven't
kept
seen-
all the Elven text just because they were allies.
At the time. I mean, you're not going to burn ancient scrolls.
Well, they wanted to.
That would be, well, no, because it's more like the library at Alexandria in our time that at one point contained like the history of the known world.
Right.
It has Christian, well, no, it wasn't Christian at the time. It was Muslim history, Jewish history, Greek history, the Orient, everything. All of these places around the world were contained in there. And then the library burned down and we lost a shitload of our history,
Right.
but we found that they had made texts in the Middle East and all that stuff. So it's more like that where they were preserving the history they had, but they don't have anything new because they haven't been to Middle Earth in 1,000 years.
What's the lineage for the? I mean, it's been 1,000 years since there was a king in the Southlands.
Right. So
I don't know. I'm just like, you wouldn't there. That wouldn't be there. Like the elves would have a random scroll, but the Numenorians wouldn't have something.
the elves are in Middle Earth, though.
That's okay. Okay, that's fair. Yeah,
And the elves are keeping tabs. Keep in mind, the elves are keeping tabs on the humans, too.
that's right. Because they need. Yeah, they want to know that shit.
They don't trust them because those humans fought for Morgoth in previous wars.
The only other thing I have, there is a lot. So, at the risk of sounding whatever, I don't mind the character of Galadriel like at all. But so what's the elf's name that's helping the humans?
It's helping the humans.
He falls in love with
Oh,
what's her
Arendir.
face? Yeah, he's badass.
Oh, I love him.
In that situation, and I get at the beginning, there's a distrust of the elves because they've been like Big Brother the whole time, right? I get it. But he very quickly proves himself to the townspeople, right?
Yep.
And they start to respect him.
Yep.
He is a proven warrior. They are in a combat situation, and they look to what's her face for leadership.
Oh, Bronwyn.
Yeah, like what?
I guess there's still a distrust there. That's all I got.
I mean, it's just stuff like that. I'm looking at that. I'm like that like I don't know. What are you trying to do here? It's like I don't know.
That's all I got, is that they still had somewhat of a distrust in him.
But they're in the tower and they're all like, "Thank you," and blah 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 blah, because he sits there and wrecks face down in the burning village.
Which I think they said that tower is going to be one of the towers we know in Mordor.
Ooh, sweet.
That'll be the base for it or something like that.
So all in all, as far as pacing, I thought pacing was like a 4 out of 10.
In the beginning, I thought it finally got its stride in the last 3 episodes.
Man, it was so slow. And every episode, I was like, "You said this last episode."
My biggest complaint in the show was the stranger. Like, I think they stretched that out far too long.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, we get it. He's somebody we know or know of. Like, cut to the chase. Like, okay, the Gandalf bait is there. The Radagast bait is there. The Sauron bait is there. Like, it's all there. The Blue Wizard. He could be a Blue Wizard. He could be Saruman. We have no idea.
Istar.
Well, I jumped off my couch when she said that because I was like, I was right. Dude, I was fucking pissed when they were like Lord Sauron, and I was like, no.
Yeah.
It's like, you are fucking everything up right now.
Dude, explain to me. Please clarify this. Please.
Yeah.
What were those 3 chicks?
So
Are they Nazgul?
No, in the Far East, in Rune and Harad, and you meet the Haradrim in Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
Those are the ones. Those are the
Yep.
Easterlings, the ones that have the Middle Eastern looking armor, and then the ones that come on the mammoths, the Mumakil. Mm-hmm. That's those people, and we're going there because he says we're going to go to Rune.
But why do they enter that like true phase form? It's very, very, very reminiscent to when Frodo gets stabbed.
So remember the Black Numenorians that you were asking about?
Yes.
So the Black Numenorians are going to go in Harad and Rune and become heralds of Morgoth.
So they have the same form as Nazgul?
No. So one thing you didn't see a lot of in the movies is there's a ton more magic and shapeshifting and dark stuff in Middle Earth.
Absolutely. Yeah. Believe
And
it.
they didn't do that in the movies a lot. Like there's vampires, there's werewolves, there's all of this stuff that we know. So I just think they were heralds of Morgoth, like into some dark shit. And I think their essence, they're not Nazgul per se, because Nazgul will be created a certain way.
And there's only 9, right? There's only 9.
And they will be the kings of men.
Right. And that's it.
Which we think one is a female because he actually never says the sex of them in the books. It just says 9 kings of men. And one of them looks like a female in The Hobbit. So
I hope they bring them in.
Queen.
Hope.
No, they'll bring them in.
So fucking cool,
We'll
dude.
see the King of the Dead not show up to the battle. We'll see the Nazgul. I still think Theo's going to be the Witch King of Angmar.
Yeah.
You're going to see a lot. You're going to see the forging of the Dwarven rings. You're going to see the forging of those. They have to show them because those are their rings that they're going to forge for the humans. the 9 rings of men. And those are the weakest. Those would be the ones they'll succeed to the power, the most. And I think one thing that's lost, and the show did a terrible job of explaining, is what the fuck these rings do. They essentially tap the unseen realm that Kellen Brimbor talks about. You're tapping into the power of that. It's essentially the spirit realm. It's the same as, what a Christian believes. It's where the Nazgul exist, but because they're blessed with that dark magic, they can exist in our plane too. So that's why Gandalf says they're neither living nor dead.
Can you explain
in both planes?
Can you explain to me the timeline? Galadriel's husband,
Celeborn.
She says he's dead.
He's not.
He's not supposed, right? He's not.
No, he's the guy that says, "Tell me where is Gandalf, for I much desire to speak with him."
So this was just a. So in the lore, is she supposed to believe he's dead, or is it just the show's running with that idea?
There's no.
There's nothing.
First of all, Tolkien writes 3 ways they meet.
Okay.
So there's no definitive answer on how they meet because Tolkien
They met
wrote
in
3 different
flowers.
stories.
We know that.
So they picked one
Right.
and went with it.
Yep.
So there's that, and then just like they're married and they show up to certain major events in Middle Earth, and that's
so
the end
the
of it.
idea that she might believe he's dead at some point.
He'll be
'cause
back.
He went to
he'll
war.
be in the show.
Right. It's not unbelievable for that to happen. You
Yes,
go to
and
battle, you leave, and that could happen, and there's nothing that says it doesn't. Okay, so we can still see him because he's pretty integral, right?
I would say we will see him.
Have to.
Yes. Yeah. Because I believe, no, because it's Gil-galad's going to get a ring. I forgot the other guy's name. Somebody else is going to get a ring that starts with a C. And then Galadriel's going to get a ring. And then the other guy's ring is going to pass to Gandalf. Gandalf has one of the elven rings in Lord of the Rings. That's why he says to the Balrog, "I'm a servant of the secret fire," because he gets the ring of fire.
Dude, when we saw the Balrog,
Oh, I loved it. That's
It's
the
awesome.
Balrog. That's the same one from the movie. That's
so
Durin's
at this point,
his name is
in lore-
Durin's Bane. That's his name.
At this point, how many are there? 3? Are there 3?
We have no idea.
But there is okay, because we're still at the point where there's an unknown amount.
The Lord of the Balrogs was slain in the last battle. Gothmog was killed in the last
okay.
battle.
Okay.
Or
there's
maybe
an
not the last battle.
Okay.
The Balrogs are essentially on the same level as the Istari. Same power, same angelic form, whatever you want to call them. They all exist on the same level. We know
Demonic.
there's 5 Istari. There's Radagast.
There's a limited number of Balrogs. I mean, there's not like an army.
Well, yes and no, because he started creating them, and again, they're twisted Istari. That's essentially what they are. So we
Right.
don't know because the gods are the ones that deem how many there are of everything.
Have you seen the imagery of them in a more humanoid form?
Yeah, I've seen
Because I mean,
like
that's what
paintings
they're
and stuff.
That's really what they would be more like, right? They would be. I mean, the idea
No.
is that
In the book, it's described as a demon wreathed in flame.
yeah, but that could be anything.
Exactly. So it's up to the imagination. And
It
the
looked-
whip, the fiery whip, is in the books and stuff.
Looked awesome.
It looked
he
just
woke
like
up.
the one from the movies, which I think was
That's
the play.
You had to. It looked incredible when they finally got the mithril melded, and you saw Sauron's eye in it. Awesome callback. That was incredible.
So now the elves will be powerful enough to withstand, but it's still a burden, which is what Galadriel explains to Frodo.
Bringing me right back to this. Where did this black goo that threatened the elven lives come from?
It's just a rot. It's like evil.
That's it.
That's it. I swore that it meant Sauron was already in Lindon.
I was
but
going to say,
obviously he wasn't.
did it have a representation? Was it his toxicity that was leaking into Middle
It's
Earth?
just evil returning because there hasn't been evil since Morgoth and Sauron were banished.
So
the
you could
last
argue
time.
that it's what it is. It's a visual representation of him being alive,
It's the same reason
which-
the elves showed up to Helm's Deep was to
Right.
show like
which would circle
things that they
back
couldn't
to
show in the books.
Galadriel being right the whole time and trying to seek it out. So it's like justification for her doing what she's doing.
yeah, she was 100%
That makes sense.
correct.
That makes
Evil
sense.
never sleeps type of situation. Now Sauron's been behind the scenes setting everything up. He's been trying to figure out the forges and how to control people, and then at some point he squabbles with Adar apparently, and Adar kills him as we know that you can't kill him. Which now, when Halbrand says, "Do you remember me?" is so much better. He said, "Did I kill your wife or your child or something?"
Ultimately, that is pretty fucking epic, actually.
Yeah,
Which is why
I have a
lot of
feeling when you go
people-
back and watch it again, it's going to be way different than when you watched it the first time.
I'm not gonna lie. So I would watch an episode and then I try to recap on lore, but I would curb what I'm watching so that I could eliminate as many opinions. I didn't want opinions. I wanted
Right.
a lore explanation. Right.
Right.
My opinions of the show are what they are. I don't need a YouTube influence behind that.
Right.
But I just wanted a breakdown of the lore, so I was very picky in what I was watching about it. And there were just so many questions with the timeline and stuff that I tried to piece together. But to be fair, The Witcher season 1 was exactly the same, where they
I'd say it
explained
was-
fucking nothing with the timeline and
I'd say
gave
it was
you
worse.
no idea. You had
I'd say
no
Witcher
idea
was
where
worse.
you were in that timeline. No idea.
At least with with Rings of Power, it's linear.
Right.
We're not skipping. We're condensing. But like
Right.
I said on I think I said during D&D, it's like if people wanted the true timeline, there's going to be just seasons of Galadriel hanging out in a forest with no shoes on, just chilling.
True.
Like you can't.
I don't
and
mind
then-
the timeline jumping. I don't.
I don't either because
I don't mind
you
that.
can't- You'd have to recast the humans all the time because they get older, and
I just
you're
want to
talking thousands of
understand.
years.
Yeah, I just want to understand what's happening. I don't mind the time jumping. It doesn't bother me.
I think they want to keep that a mystery to an extent because they want people to be engaged, even the fans that know what's going to happen. So
That's fair. It's just like is this person supposed to? Were they at this point in the second age, or in like at what age were they really, or are you taking liberties there?
yeah, I mean, and, here's my issue: is people complain about not sticking to the lore. There's so many things from the Peter Jackson movies, which I love those movies. They're
Which
some
are
of
not
my
lore.
favorite
We're
movies.
not
Yeah, like
not accurate.
Arwen doesn't leave Rivendell. She doesn't. She leaves when she's supposed to go to the Grey Havens and then comes back. That's it. Glorfindel, the other elf, who is in the beginning and at the end, is actually the elf that rides and gets Frodo from Aragorn and brings him back to Rivendell. Glorfindel does a lot more stuff in the books. Tom Bombadil, completely cut from the books. The Adventures Through the Barrow Wights, filled with these dead zombie kings and things, completely cut from the movies. I said from the books before, from the movies. The elves do not show up to Helm's Deep in the books. It is just the 300 people from Rohan defending that city. So back in the day, you heard minimal complaints. You heard some people go like, I remember when we were in the movies and we saw Two Towers, my buddy Jeremy was like, the elves don't show up to Helm's Deep. This is
I was
crap."
gonna say, I think back then there were a lot less people who knew.
Right. And it boosted the fandom. Now everyone's a fucking expert. So when they were like,
Correct.
Adar's like, this is how the orcs were created. People are like, no. This is how the orcs were created. I'm like, Tolkien said 3 different stories of how the orcs were created.
Pick one.
So pick one. That's what they did. They
Right.
picked one. And they went with the one that Sauron tells in the Fellowship of the Ring to Lurtz.
Yeah.
When he says, do you know how the first orcs were made? They were elves, tortured and mutilated. Which is exactly what Adar says because he is one of those elves.
An elf, right?
He's
I
a
don't know.
dark elf.
I didn't have as much problem with the. Where I found the most issue is the script writing and the choreography and the pacing. Those are my 3 bugaboos. They have
Which
the
can all be
talent,
fixed.
right? They have the talent. So what the fuck are the lead guys doing? Like,
Yep.
I don't want to see them get fired, but like, fuck, take a back seat, please.
I'm still holding out hope that the stranger is not Gandalf as well.
I think that's the obvious choice, and I don't think it's going to be the obvious choice.
I think it's one of the Blue Wizards because that's
It's
the
got to
playground.
be. It's
You
got to
can
be.
do whatever you want with them.
Yep.
No one can tell you anything.
And no one's going to sit there and be like, that's not what happened, and that's not what he said.
Because all we know is they show up to Middle Earth and they disappear into the East. That's all we know. So where are
think
they
the
going?
Obvious,
East.
now, I'm probably going to eat shit on this, watch it be Gandalf, but in our chat, I'm calling him Gandalf because they are trying to invoke in you that's what, you know what I mean? This is Gandalf. I think they're going to pull the plug and they're going to be like, nope, different Star Wizard.
He did say, always follow your nose in the last episode, which he says in Fellowship too.
How do you feel about the Harfoots?
I love the Harfoots.
Really?
My major issue is
I think
this.
they're backstabbing Kents.
Well, give me a second. I love the Harfoots. Here's why. I think it's important to know where the hobbits come from. They're from 3 different tribes of Harfoots. I think it's interesting to see that they were nomadic. They were not, which makes which makes their laziness and the fact that they're just like want a quiet, chill life make so much more sense because they were a nomadic people. The wheels from their carts look exactly like the doors on a hobbit hole. So I think
Just
at one
much
point
smaller,
the carts are
yeah.
just. I think the carts are just going to stop and they're just going to start building these things when they find what will be the Shire. The reason I like the reason I don't like the Harfoots being in it. Let's start there. Is Tolkien does say at one point that the hobbits, which were the Harfoots, the Stores, and the Fallowhides, never did anything remarkable until the Third Age when Bilbo gets the ring. I think they're still adhering to that. They haven't done anything remarkable. They've
just traveled so far.
and they've come into contact with remarkable people, but they haven't affected Middle Earth in a way that Frodo and Bilbo and Sam do, and Merry and Pippin. As long as they keep to that, I'll be fine. I don't mind if she travels with who I hope is a blue wizard to the east. I am beyond excited to see Rune and Harad played out in live action because the only places we've been able to go there are the Shadow. I think Shadow War goes there visually. So that's awesome. The reason I like them is because they add an element to the story that doesn't exist elsewhere. And I know some people are like, cut them out. They don't belong there. I'm like, no, there is a whole point of Lord of the Rings to the nature of the Hobbit and that peaceful existence.
Right.
And that is what Frodo and Sam and Merry and Pippin are fighting for, is to keep that existence. And I think that's an important anchor to hold on to when you're watching any version of this story.
I'm 50-50. Like, I get that. How do you have a Lord of the Rings show without some sort of Hobbit, right?
Right.
I mean, that brings it all back. Like, this is very clearly a Lord of the Rings thing because we have hobbits.
Right.
And I get that. And yeah, you're absolutely right. It's an anchoring thing. But the other part of me thinks how cool it would be to explore all the other races and creatures in Tolkien. You know what I mean? How cool it would be to go outside, like you said, vampires and werewolves, and you could have a completely different Lord of the Rings presentation. Which would be cool, really cool to see that.
You can still see them.
Right, but I'm just saying, and I'm not saying you have to have one without the other. I'm just saying it would be cool to see all that. And if that timeline took us, or that region took us away from hobbits, I wouldn't mind that.
So you know how Galadriel's brother died, right? Finrod, the one we met.
According to the show?
No, well, they couldn't say it. This is the problem.
Sauron killed him.
No, well, yes, but no, he was killed. He was killed defending Beren from the Beren and Luthien stories from a werewolf. So he kills the werewolf, but he sustains mortal injuries. So he dies fighting a werewolf. So Sauron doesn't kill him.
Not that, he's the reason for the show, but they could have branched off and has him killed.
This is why I think it's important to get the rights to Silmarillion, because while people may not agree and the Tolkien estate may be like, oh, they're going to sell you, it's just an adaptation. Let someone tell the story. If you hate it, you hate it. But let them tell it the right way. That's my point. Mm-hmm. We're handicapping the ability to tell the story the right way because you could have gotten your werewolf in the flashback with Finrod.
I could have. Damn it.
Sauron turns into a werewolf at one point in the books.
I'm sure they're being hamstring with this whole what they can and cannot use. I'm positive. I think Amazon I think they botched season 1. I
I'm
think
okay
Amazon,
with saying that.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I watched every fucking episode, and when season 2 comes out, I will watch every fucking episode.
'Cause
There's
it's
no way
Middle-earth.
there's no way I'm not. I'm watching it. I'm watching it.
I equate it to episodes 1 and 2 of Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean,
It's part of the saga.
right.
They get watched, and Duel of the Fates is in episode 1.
Yeah, I mean, I'm there with you. I can't defend the show, but I will absolutely.
Yeah, that's where I'm
I'm
at.
watching it. Yeah, I'm watching it.
And I try and find the good things. I don't go and try and like
It's Lord of the
sugarcoat them.
Rings. I just like I like Lord of the Rings.
I like being in that universe. It's fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Even when it's shit. And that's the beauty of Star Wars. Even when Star Wars is shit, it's still fun to be in that universe.
I'm right there with you.
So season 2 probably won't see it until like 2024 because they just started filming it like 2 weeks ago.
Did you see what they said about it?
Yeah, that was annoying.
You
Like, don't tell me that.
right? You just stop it. Don't set expectations because I have what I have. Don't
But
try
it
to
also-
change them.
It also sets a precedent for like, oh, we did a shit job in season 1 and we're aware of it. Like, fuck, man, why? So
We'll see. I mean, hey, look, and again, it's not the same, but I look at how Netflix handled The Witcher 1 to 2, and 2.
Oh,
is
season
just-
2 is a masterpiece.
Oh my god. So if they continue with the fucking world's largest budget that could end world hunger, I'm being facetious, but with a budget similar, they could absolutely do it. They could do a phenomenal, complete 180. They could do a phenomenal job, and I hope they do.
Yep.
I hope
Yeah.
they got the time for it.
Yeah, I'm willing to see this one through. Again, if it wasn't Lord of the Rings, I wouldn't watch it. I would have stopped. But
Yeah.
it's a universe I love. So we'll see where it goes. But that's how I look at Rings of Power season 1 for the most part. I liked the last few episodes, I really did. But for the most part,
picked
the
up.
beginning,
It picked
yeah,
up
for the
for sure.
beginning felt like Attack of the Clones and the Phantom Menace. It was just like it's part of the thing I love, but it's definitely not the. If anything, it's the worst part of the thing I love. But again, Phantom Menace is Duel of the Fates, which is the best lightsaber fight in everything. It doesn't get any better than that. So take it with a grain of salt. But I'm you can feel however you want, you can react however you want, but just don't
Yeah.
shit on other people who are trying to enjoy it. Stop, please. Come
That's
on.
why I curbed what I was taking in for sure. I just care about the lore. I just
Yeah.
want to know where this falls in the lore.
It's a mixed bag because of the
Yeah.
restrictions. That's the problem.
Yeah. That's all I cared about, and that's the only information I sought out.
Yeah, I want to see the Tolkien estate. I want to see the Tolkien estate really come alive.
Well, I hope
And-
that they go back to the estate and they say, "See, you've really fucked us." If that's the case,
It annoyed me so much when the news came out that Netflix pitched them like an MCU style retelling of the First and Second Age. And I was like, oh my God, that's the only way to do it. Why the fuck would you say no? And the estate, apparently they got nervous about it and then agreed to this one show. And I'm like, no.
idiots.
So, but now Netflix has Narnia. And I hope they do 7 seasons of Narnia and each season is one of the books.
What else did Netflix just get? Didn't they get something else?
I don't know. Somebody needs
Was
to
there
get
another big show
Warhammer.
coming out for them? Yeah. Yes.
Apparently Games Workshop, like the price to license it is like stupid, which is why no one wants to do it.
Really?
Yeah.
But they have a
think they're-
million fucking mid to trash tier games.
Yeah, but their shit doesn't stink. I think for like visual adaptations because they're
Dude, you would have an
HBO. Give it to HBO. Let them Game of Thrones Warhammer.
immediate winner. Immediate. That would be insane. I would
40K?
personally would. I was just say I would start with 40K, but you could start anywhere, and
You'd
I
have
mean,
to rate it NC-17.
It's just
It's too
dark ass.
graphic.
Did you check out that new Warhammer game, Darktide?
It's on my list of games to play. I'm currently playing Guardians of the Galaxy,
Okay.
which that game is phenomenal.
Okay.
It tells such a good story, Mike. So if you're a fan of Guardians and you want
That is my top tier. Guardians of the Galaxy is
So it's like a Telltale experience from the storytelling aspect, but it still has action shooting. So
cool.
you control Star-Lord, but you use Rocket, Groot, Drax, and Gamora as abilities.
Oh, cool.
And then you can enhance their abilities. So they fight alongside you, but you can be like, Gamora, cut him down. And she comes in with her sword from the sky and just whack, Drax, knock him out. And
That's a pretty good way to do it.
The soundtrack is amazing. It keeps the humor. Like if you're dying in a fight, it'll either do it automatically if you're dying too much, or you can do it manually. You have a huddle up. So it'll play some song and he's like, huddle up. And the four of them are in front of you. You're in first person view. You have to hear what they say. And then you get two options to say back to them. And one will like rally them and they'll get like 3 times damage. And the other one will, they'll be like, and they'll get a little bit of a boost, but not much. But it's just really funny, the dialogue, and everybody talks during the fights.
That's
so
awesome.
They still razz on each other and like,
it's the back and forth still.
yeah, and
Which
like
is what
Groot,
makes that movie amazing.
Groot says something and Rocket like translates, and Rocket's not telling the truth, like just like that. And then in between planets, you're on the ship, and you can walk around the ship freely and talk to everybody and get more information and craft.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so it's. And you do make decisions that change the game, and they'll tell you, just like a Telltale game, like you chose this, so
Choose your own adventure. Nice.
so that game is a ton of fun. It's on Game Pass.
All right.
So yeah, give it a whirl. I've been having a blast. Hunter loves watching it because he thinks they're hysterical.
Sweet.
It had I won't tell you what it is, but it had something that reminded me of. You remember when Metal Gear, I think it was 2, tried to get you to turn the PlayStation off while you were playing it?
No.
I think it was Metal Gear 2. They like fucked with you,
Really?
and they were like,
That's-
your PlayStation's broken or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was, but they fucked with you to try and get it off, and then you would lose your save up until that point. So you have to go back and figure out how to troubleshoot this, and you're sitting there thinking your PlayStation's broken because the internet wasn't huge back then, except for like the Prima guides and stuff.
Assholes.
There is a scene in this where they try and mess with you in the same exact way. I had to do it 3 times before I was like, what the hell do I need to do here? Because you think you're doing the right thing, and then you realize you're not, because the game keeps ending, like the credits roll, and then it takes you back to the starting screen. And you're like, what the And Danielle's like, no, make the other choice. Now do this. And I'm like, oh, okay, we're good. But
That's
it's good.
Too good.
Yeah, it's very deep. Like the memory that Peter has is very based on the day Yondu found him and his mother dying. So that's like the big plot point. And you keep every so often they add a little bit more to the flashback, and you fully control the flashback. So you're young Peter walking around the flashback. So you fully control it, and it keeps getting
they
like
go
you get a
all
little
in.
bit more story. Yeah, you get a little bit more story back to the day that like Yondu found you.
Jeez.
Cool. And yeah, like I was in one of the Nova Corps ships looking at the prison records, and there's all these nods to Marvel characters from other Guardians like comics and stuff, like in the prison records. And Rocket and Gamora will make comments on them. There was a comment about Nebula at some point. I'm assuming she's going to show up in the game.
When
So
did
I've
this
been
come out?
Earlier this year. It's like my game of the year, hands down.
Huh.
And then on PlayStation, I'm playing Shadow of War, which I just did a siege for the first time last night. So you take over the orcs mentally, and when you basically beat the captains down, and then you have the option to kill them or mind control them. Shadow of War's like free on everything, so if it's on Game Pass.
I'm pretty sure Twitch has it up. I think you can
I
get
have it
from
on
Twitch.
Steam if you want to Steam share it too.
I might also have it on Steam. I'm
Anyway,
double-checking.
so you take them over, you get 5 captains, you can put them into the siege, and then during the siege, shit goes down. Like there's other captains you can kill and take over during the siege. Your captains can betray you midway through the siege. And then there's an overlord of the fort that you have to basically you fight to control 2 control points, just like you would in Battlefield or something. You take those over, and then you go into the keep and you fight the overlord. And then you control that area, and you can run missions from there. But on the table, you can have the orcs you control challenge the other orcs that you don't to combat, to kill them, to like cull the herd. But you don't know if your guy's going to win or their guy's going to win. So it kind of goes back and forth. And then you can have them become bodyguards of higher ranking orcs, and then they'll stab them in the back for you.
Man, their systems are just so fucking.
The Nemesis system's ridiculous.
I do have Shadow of War. I should download that.
Either watch the video for Mordor or play Mordor before you play it.
I have both.
Yeah, I mean, you could play Mordor. It's not nearly as in depth, but the story's really good. But Shadow War, I'm enjoying the game itself. It's just fun. I have this one troll commander who is absolutely hysterical. He's like your tutorial through how to control your army. And like you'll be finishing a fight and then the camera pans and he's just standing there. And he's like, mate. And he tells you what to do. He's like, I wouldn't do it that way, but you can. All right. See you later, Bright Lord. And then he walks away.
The Nemesis system is awesome.
It's genius because they don't care if like you go into an area and there's 7 captains standing there. They will all attack you. Mm-hmm. And each of them gets their own little vignette to be like, you're here. This one guy yesterday, every time I would mind control an orc next to him, his mechanic was he would flee. Took me 4 fucking times of encountering him to finally get him down to the point where I could mind control him. And then it's just like each orc has their own individual traits. Like another one, he has this thing where he's like, he's the complainer. Shagrath the complainer, I think. So he just, everything is, no, it's not. No. It's just
Remind me, Shadow of War was the one WB tried to fuck so hard with loot boxes, correct?
Yes, and then they fixed it.
Yes.
And guess what doesn't have loot boxes because of that? Gotham Knights has 0 microtransactions. Mm-hmm. All 11 skins there's 44 skins, 11 for each character, and all of them are you can get them in game piece by piece. And it has transmog complimentary, so you can build your own skin if you'd like.
See, I remember when that was a huge deal with chat because all the good shit was locked behind loot boxes, and you were fucked.
No, like I have right now. I have purple and gold gear across the board, and I'm only level
in War
17 in Shadow War. Yeah.
Okay, so when are they still there at all? Loot
no,
boxes?
they got rid of them.
Completely gone.
Yeah, I haven't. Okay. I have not seen a single loot box.
Cool.
The enemies drop every time you kill a captain, they drop loot. So that's the dichotomy. Do you want to control them or do you want loot? Because if you control them, then you can work the board a little bit better because you have orcs under your command, or you can get their loot. Like I killed 2 of them during the raid last night. I got a brand new dagger and a brand new breastplate. And it's cool. You'll like it because it's like the Numenorian dagger, a Rohirrim cloak, things like that. Sweet. And they're all stylized in the way that
I'm not, they would. As soon as we started talking about Black Numenorians, I went back and watched Return of the King extended just to see the mouth of Sauron. Yes. The chattering of the teeth.
I bid you a gift. I love the way he turns his head.
Oh, he's such a good character. I wish they had
Nobody
more.
knows what he is, though. He's a mystery. He could be a Black Numenorian. No one really knows what he is.
Assumed, yeah.
Yeah, he's very, very... He's an interesting character. Gandalf. I love when he says that.
Big-ass helmet.
He suffered greatly at the hands of your enemies. No, that guy's... fun. I just love when Aragorn cuts his fucking head off because he's like, nope, I'm done.
I don't believe you.
I do not believe him. But that's Aragorn. Aragorn's a badass. I actually think they downplayed him a little bit in the Peter Jackson movies. He's more of a badass in the books. So, yeah, and Peter Jackson filmed a lot of stuff that he left out. Keep that in mind, thankfully. Like, he had Arwen showing up to Helm's Deep. He had... Aragorn fighting physical Sauron in the Battle of the Black Gate.
Oh, that's right.
They filmed this stuff.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
It never got past the cutting room floor. So, thankfully. Before we go, I know we could talk about Call of Duty and New World next week, especially because Clintus will be here. We should talk about Call of Duty and Clintus.
And the new update, I think, is getting ready to load.
For New World drops today. On the 18th.
Paused right now for me.
But let's talk about House of the Dragon
Swords.
before we get out of here. Did you watch the new episode?
I have not watched the new episode.
All right, so we'll wait on House of the Dragon then.
Tonight.
We'll wait on House of the Dragon.
But what about up to this point?
I mean, so much happened in this last episode that I can't really talk about up to this point without incorporating.
All right.
Like, bro, Mike, Rhaenyra's not in this episode. That's how much they had to squeeze in that hour. There's no Daemon and no Rhaenyra in this episode. That's all I'm going to tell you.
It's tonight. I'm watching it tonight.
You have to. Like, so much happened. So much. But they set the stage for the final episode of the season pretty nicely.
Okay.
I'm
So
just
far,
sad
I am loving dragons.
But I said it last night in the chat. You probably didn't read it because you're probably avoiding those conversations. But once, after like episode 2 or 3 of House of Dragon, they realized, okay, it was just the last season of Game of Thrones they hated. This is our redemption. We can now MCU Star Wars Westeros on HBO.
Yeah.
So now they have all of these shows. Pete was showing the list of shows they have in the development. They have Dunk and Egg, which is like this traveling knight story. They have apparently Corlys might get his own show. The Sea Snake. And then Robert's Rebellion is apparently in talks, which that's the one they need to make.
Jeez.
Robert rebelling with young Ned.
That would be turning it into
versus-
an MCU style thing is phenomenal.
But then, yeah, because then we'd see the romance between Ned's sister and Rhaegar.
I mean, don't get me wrong. They're not all going to be bangers, but to flesh that whole thing out would be sweet.
There's one called the Golden Empire, which is based on ET, which is like the Asian-inspired empire all the way on the other side of the world in Essos. And there's like mystics and all this crazy shit there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so there's that one. There's 10,000 Ships, which is about like this. I don't think she's a pirate, but this sailor queen woman.
What's
Pirate-esque
would be fucking
Nymeria, who what's her face names her direwolf after. That's who it's about.
That would be cool. That would be really cool.
What the hell's the youngest daughter's name? Stark.
Arya?
Thank you. Arya's direwolf is named Nymeria, which is this is the story of Nymeria.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so they're working on all this other stuff. But yeah, you got to watch this new episode because it's so
Damn it. All right. Allie's going to be mad that we didn't watch it sooner.
It's so much.
I have to watch it with her. I can't. You know how it is.
I have to too. House of the Dragon is one that I have to watch.
Yeah,
there.
that's
Star Wars.
I can't cheat on that.
The Andor's been good too. If you want to watch Andor,
I have to. I absolutely
It's Mission
have to.
Impossible in space.
I have to watch that.
That's what it is. So Andor's been a lot of fun. But it's all ending on Sunday this week, and now I'm down to one show again. All right, so
Game
we're gonna
time.
leave House of the Dragon on the show notes for next week. We're gonna leave Call of Duty New World because you'll have a week to play New World. And I'll even talk about my time in Wrath of the Lich King Classic, which I thought would be better than it has been. It has not been terrific.
Ooh,
And to see people downing Neltharion with 3 Drakes on week 2 just shows that Classic might be great for the nostalgia dopamine hit, but that's about it. And we'll talk about all of that, but make sure you pick up that King's Coast Coffee, kingscoastcoffee.com. If you want to follow Mike and I's adventures, you can do so on Twitter at Old Fashioned Pod. We're on Facebook. We just migrated to new audio servers, so if you do have trouble downloading or doing anything in that realm, just hit us up on socials and we'll take care of it. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, you can hit us up on Twitter, Facebook, Old Fashioned, and we're on Twitch too. We're not really using it. Maybe Mike's gonna rip some packs on Twitch. We'll see.
We're gonna rip some packs on Twitch. We're gonna do some fun stuff. If you're interested in any spell table games, Kevin.
Oh yeah,
Kevin. If you're not familiar, Spell Table is the online format for Commander. You can play in the comfort of your own home. All you need is a basic camera. Your phone can be used. Appropriate lighting and cards. Super easy. Just look up Spell Table. Google it. We have an MTG Discord going right now. If you want in, whether it be just check out my deck list or I want to play games, we try to do a minimum of 1 weekly 4-person game running continuously every week, and then we have games going in between that. So, yeah, hit us up if you want in on that. Send out the invite for it.
All right. I was going to try and get you a copy of Scorn, by the way.
I keep seeing that pop up in my feed.
But I promised it to somebody else. I was going to get
It's fine. I got to do some research on it. And between Call of Duty, oh shit, there was like 3 games. We have World of Warcraft, Dragonflight coming out, Call of Duty.
You got Nier on Switch. I can get you a code for that probably.
Fuck yes.
All right.
I love Nier. Have you ever played Nier?
No, it's not my cup of tea. Callisto Protocol, that's the deep space horror game.
Oh, Darktide. I just brought that. Darktide coming up. That's another one I want to get it.
What system would you want to code on for Callisto Protocol?
What is that?
It's a horror. It's a horror game.
PC.
Steam or Epic?
Steam.
All right. Review. For
I have a couple Halloween titles we can do too. Paul
wanted to do some Halloween stuff, so if you want to do like Dead by Daylight or anything like that, we can do some streams. Is it next week? No. Yeah. No, we were going to do it next week. I think.
I even have more. You know what I have? I have Resident Evil Biohazard, which I haven't touched yet. We could do Dead by Daylight. We could do.
Well, we'll do so. Let's plan. I know what your day's off next week, so I'll do some planning for some stuff.
Cool beans.
Oh, Midnight Suns is coming out soon too, isn't it? The Marvel game.
You know what else I have to do? We'll do that later. All
right. You have a good one, folks. You can follow me, Kevin X Vision, on Twitter, KMagic101 on Instagram, and Mike. Everything he's on, you can talk to him on Old Fashioned Pod on Twitter and Facebook. We will see you next week for episode 44. And Clintus will be back. Have a good one.
right. Yay.